Well, let's call the meeting to order. We know that that's on there.
We can guide you to the agenda.
Yeah, at 5:13. Does someone want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
We did have a last minute addition, Lori. I don't know if you saw it from Melinda. It's a position description, so I think that we would want to add that to the consent agenda.
Right.
Yep.
The floating sub, I think it was.
Okay. I still need someone to make the motion to approve the agenda, and then we can add that as well.
Okay.
Barbara's waving her hand.
So moved. You can't, can you see us, but we can't see you? Look.
I can't see, well, I'm not in the point where I can see you here. You guys can see me there. Everybody happy now? Now I can't see you necessarily because I'm on my phone. I am not on. Becky, do you have a question? Because I see your hand is raised.
We don't see Becky at all. Oh,
No.
I see her hand is raised too. And you're frozen, Lori.
I was raising my hand to second the agenda.
Ah, okay, excellent. So, we are adding as Deb mentioned, we are bringing on we are adding to the consent agenda. But is there anything else that we need to add or subtract at this time?
I don't see anything.
Okay. So all of those in favor of the agenda as proposed with the addition to the consent agenda, please mark the little green box for yes or mark the red box for no. Brenda, I'm just waiting for you.
Brenda, go open your participant box and you'll see the yes down inside that.
Great. So the agenda is passed unanimously. That's great. Usually we do comments with citizens and staff. I don't see anybody here that wants to address the board. I will say that we haven't had any Let's Talks that were addressed to the RNESU board.
Nope.
So, okay. So moving on, there should be the consent agenda next. We are adding the floating sub description under the consent agenda. Is there anything anybody wants to take on or off before we start?
I have to be honest, I didn't have a chance to read that description, so I would love Jean just to give us a real simple, what is it?
Sure.
But should we make the motion first or should I pull that
So
item
you
off?
should pull it if you want to talk about it. So let's pull it.
Let's pull that.
Okay. All right. Anything else anybody wants to pull off before we go ahead? Hearing nobody say anything. All of those in favor, we actually need someone to approve the consent agenda with taking off the floating sub job description.
Debbie and Barbara.
Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please either press the green button. All those opposed, please press the red button. Okay. Consent agenda passes unanimously. Okay, and we are going to talk about the floating sub job description. Jean?
Yeah, I had talked about the floating sub in August for two reasons. We decided to hire floating subs to help us get through this year. These are non-union positions intended to be temporary, but with benefits while they're hired. So a floating sub is because we know that we're going to have a great deal of difficulty finding subs this year. I decided that we would be better off having a certain, like 2 subs per building. I think the high school is 3, so that we can cover absences throughout the year safely. And if we need to redeploy them, we can. It is going in as part of our COVID expenses that we anticipate getting reimbursed for. We're submitting it. We don't know that answer yet. Right now, the floating subs are also being used to help the pods that are supporting students remote learning from in school. So they're kind of a dual purpose. So each school is using paraeducators and floating subs to manage those pods. And as we bring more students into the school, the floating subs will become subs. They are this year only. We do not anticipate keeping them. But we do need to have some security that we can keep our schools and our classes going as best we can.
Great, thank you. Does someone want to make a motion to accept that? And then we can talk about it if we need to.
Becky, Barbara?
Okay. Is there any discussion regarding the job description for the floating subs?
So Jean, is it just one floating sub or there's more than one, several?
So altogether, there will be somewhere between 10 and 15 for the entire district. And it still won't cover the types of absences that we've had in the past. I mean, 15 people out on a day was not unusual, but it will help us with sustainability much greater. I dread the day where I have to close down a school because I don't have enough staff to run it.
Yeah. And this is an RNESU position, right? Because our subs
Right.
have been RNESU hires for a while, right? Or
Not
no?
necessarily. Our subs have been hired by the two districts. Usually that's how they're paid, but we made this an RNESU because the deployment is coming out of here.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the personnel, or excuse me, of the floating sub position job description, please signify by saying aye or pressing that green button. And if not, the red button. And Jean, I'm sorry, I can't see both the participants and the agenda at the same time.
Okay,
So-
it passed.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so next thing on our agenda is superintendent's report.
So it feels like we're so in it. School opened relatively well. The health screenings have gone much better than we anticipated. And each day we get a little bit tighter with them. We have put out a Google survey so that parents and staff can do the survey from home, and we'll do temperatures at the school. Right now, we are adjusting to the fact that it suddenly got cold and it's going to stay cold for a little bit. And we recognize that we live in Vermont, so we're starting to shift the health screenings into the building while still trying to maintain social distancing. And it takes a lot of people to do it, but it's gone very well. I spent the first day at Lothrop and helped with theirs, and the second day at Neshabe and helped with theirs so that I could see how it was actually working, and the principals have worked it well. I had given you a link to a PowerPoint of all the amazing things that the tech department did this summer, but I will also say that our most significant challenge at the start of the school year also is tech. Not the tech department, but tech. Just last week, we got in 200 more Chromebooks, which we badly needed. And we got word today that 400 more have been shipped today, which leaves us only 200 short, which is really exciting. So we think that right now, everybody who needs one has one. And if that's not the case, we're asking them to let us know because we have a few left at the moment, plus 400 should be arriving shortly. So we are good to go. But the first 2 days of school opening, Google had difficulties. And so throughout the entire country, or world, I guess, teachers and kids were being dropped off meets. Connectivity was an issue. That was a problem, and that wasn't our problem, but it was very frustrating anyway. We still occasionally have problems with connecting to Google first thing in the morning, but I think the kids are getting a whole lot better at just staying on while the teacher gets back on if they're the one who falls off. We also, despite professional development in June and time over the summer, actually deploying some of the Google Classroom skills is still a learning curve for some folks, particularly sharing a screen at the same time you're teaching. So we have a little bit, there's a little bit of a learning curve. I had talked to people about our words for the year, our flexibility and grace. Grace so that we can forgive the learning curve, and flexibility so we go with whatever is happening. So I've reminded a few people of that. I gave you kind of a breakdown under RNESU of what each of the departments have been doing, and it really still is pretty phenomenal work. And I cannot say enough about the hours and hours that our principals have put in to make it work at the school level. They have been there almost around the clock. Really, they've been around all summer, but especially in August as teachers started coming in and they needed to get an isolation room in every school. And, they've really been, the myriad of details that they're handling is just phenomenal. So I don't have a whole lot more information for you yet. I'll be letting the individual boards know what enrollment looks like as I meet with them over the next couple of weeks. But our enrollment doesn't really appear to be down. By enrollment, I mean in school and out of school. It doesn't appear to be down. I know that Barstow is coming in pretty equal, which is good because there are more homeschool applications coming in. So we're gathering some other kids from somewhere, I guess. So we seem to be fairly stable, which is good. We are only in the second week. We are only in day 8, I think, or 6 of school. But we are starting to look towards the end of the month and what the next phase coming in might look like so that we can give parents notice. Things appear to be going well. Our systems are getting into place. We have had 4 staff so far who were potentially exposed to the virus, who needed to be out for quarantine. One of those staff impacted the start of pre-kindergarten in 2 schools, and that's going to happen. This is the year of COVID. That's going to happen. I'm sorry about that. Luckily, the staff is negative, and 2 other tests have come in on our negatives. We're only waiting on the results of 1. But in the state, there are 2 districts who did have to close down after the first week due to COVID, and we're going to be going in and out. I won't risk putting a sick adult in a classroom with kids and other adults. So I apologize in advance for those that I anger, but I'm erring on the side of safety. One of the parents who was given the pre-K lottery withdrew his request for an outside district. So we drew another name. And then another parent withdrew their request for an outside pre-K. So we need to draw another name. I don't have it for you tonight. I'll do it with Melinda, and I do it on Zoom. So if anyone wants to see it, they can see it. The other 4 slots are in place. But both of those who withdrew their request came to an RNESU pre-K program. So that's exciting.
Do you know why they withdrew their request?
One withdrew. No, not fully. One was comparing schedules of the other place that she wanted with Barstow's, and she chose Barstow. The other person changed their mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So you have 1 more slot to fill. Just a reminder that you've got board professional development opportunities coming up. Everybody's invited who wishes to participate on the Otter Valley Professional Development next Wednesday, September 23rd, on equity, racism, and Black Lives Matter. It is a Zoom meeting. In addition, the Chittenden Select Board is sponsoring unintentional bias, implicit bias training in October, and I'll get word out to you also by Zoom if you're interested in attending it.
Hey, Jean, did you already send the link for that one? Because I didn't.
For the implicit bias, Jacob did send it.
No, the one for next Wednesday.
No, I have not
Okay.
yet. So you will get it shortly. And it will be also put on the web as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any questions?
Jean, I was just trying to think about the staff, especially your principals. Is there anything that you would recommend or suggest that we as a board could do to just show our appreciation for everything they've done? I mean, I'd love to show our appreciation for every teacher because I know every teacher is struggling. But I know that that's a little bit,
Yeah.
the teachers are removed from us, but I feel like principals might be, I don't know how other board members feel. I just feel like we should probably formally thank everybody for their dedication and hard work in getting our reopening off the ground in a very successful way from what it appears.
I think it's a lovely idea. I had granted an extra vacation day, which is not much, but a token acknowledging all the extra hours going in. But I think, whether it's flowers or I think it's a nice gesture.
What if we did, once we're all back together again, some sort of catered meal?
Sure.
By school. I'm
2022.
just thinking that, I know a lot of PTOs do like a meal for the teachers when it's parent-teacher conferences, but maybe we do something like that for them instead to show our appreciation. It's just a thought. Uh-oh. Did I lose you guys?
Well,
No, we
I
hear
would
you.
like to do something more immediate, but that's not a bad idea in the long term. But something that would take place more now would be great. Just coming out of this summer of the spring and then the summer and the crazy that happened. Be nice to thank them now. And then when we get through everything, oh yes, a nice big feast would be splendid. Yeah, 2022, like you were saying, Jean.
The only issue with something more immediate, unless somebody has a great idea, is that most of the teachers are all at home. And to send flowers to every single one of them,
Laura, are you talking teachers or principals?
Well, I think if we do principals, then we better be doing teachers.
So, yeah.
That's my opinion. I mean, they've all put in extra hours. The principals did, the teachers have.
Yeah.
I think we should do it for both. And honestly, we should probably do it for everyone. Because if you start picking groups, then you're going to get someone who gets upset. Oh, the teacher, we did it for this group, but they didn't do it for us. And I think we need to show our appreciation to everyone.
I was thinking more simply, like not even giving a gift, but just a formal letter from you, Lori, as the chair of the RNESU board, thanking everybody for their effort and hard work and dedication. Something that can be shared with principals, and then they could share it in their staff meetings or something like that. Just sometimes a word of thanks can be just as meaningful as a bouquet of flowers or a box of chocolates or something,
Acknowledgement, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's a nice idea.
It is, and
Right.
it could go to the Brandon Reporter. I would advocate that principals and directors get their own shout out in that letter.
Okay.
I do a lot of shouting out for the teachers and the staff. And I think the administrators are often overlooked, and yet if it weren't for what they were doing, we would be falling apart. I mean, everybody is crucial in the organization, absolutely crucial.
And I've just put my personal 2 cents in as with my parent hat on to the tech department that's been very responsive in helping us figure out a couple of blips along the way. And both Alexis, the coordinator, the director, and then Whitney, who was at Otter Valley. I went and swapped out a Chromebook yesterday, and she troubleshot a hotspot and explained things to me that I didn't understand. It was very helpful. And so, kudos, because this cannot have been an easy start to school. They've done a good job, I think.
Right. Well, and we did kind of give them a shout out at convocation. Of course, that was just verbal. So we can also I'm happy to write something up, and like you said, Jean, we can put it in the reporter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions on the superintendent report?
I had
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I put my little hand raisey up, but I don't think you can see that, or I don't know if you can see that.
I
Anyway,
can't. Sorry.
and then I've just been babbling anyway, so you wouldn't know that I had more to say. I wanted to know about the training next week. Are we? I know it's open to the public.
Yeah, I'm about to put that word out to the public. I was waiting for the descriptor from the trainers.
And so, is there anything we should be doing as the various people on the board to promote it, or where? How
So
will it be?
if I draft something tomorrow, I'll put it on Front Porch Forum. I wonder if I can do it tonight. I'm probably already too late for Brandon Chamber, but I'll see what I can do. And then a Facebook post, and then if
I
you,
don't think you're too late. I don't think you're too late for Chamber. I think he takes stuff up until like tomorrow morning, if I'm not
great,
mistaken.
I'll do it before I go home tonight. And then you can, share out from Facebook and Front Porch Forum, your own Front Porch Forums. Having it come from board members is awesome.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing that we're doing it, and it's good to let people know that we're doing it, but it's also a good opportunity for them to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So, thank you for coordinating it.
Okay, anyone else? Questions for Jean? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Global ends monitoring, policy 1.0. We were going to have a discussion tonight regarding updating our global ends policy. We had tabled it from our last meeting because I think we wanted to think about it and then come back together.
So I have a question about the history of the policy itself. Was this something that was done with input from Val last year with the RNESU board? I'm just trying to figure out who wrote it and when was it written and who gave input to it.
So I'll be honest, RNESU policies were pretty much ripped right from the OVUU and BUU
Policies at the time.
yes, there we go. So I don't think that Val might have been there to help us with that, but I don't think so. I think we just kind of tried to meld it together so that, we realized that as RNESU, we are trying to educate everyone from K to 12. We know Barstow does K to 8, but you also have students, that go on to tuition schools from 9 to 12. And we tried to make it so that we were capturing all of our kids. Knowing that RNESU really is just its function is to take all of those things that we both use and dole it out so that we don't have to buy it all separately and spend way too much money.
So I'll be honest, I spent a long time with this global ends policy today, kind of looking it over, asking a lot of questions about it. I have a lot of questions and also some suggestions for how maybe we might want to consider rewriting it slightly. I don't know if you want to take that much time today to do it, but I could tell it was kind of a putting together of two global ends policies, and I'm not sure it's the most effective policy for the RNESU to use. I mean, my first fundamental question is, are we serving, or do we exist for the children, the enrolled students of our towns, or do we exist, RNESU, that is, the RNESU board, to support and enable the two district boards to do their work? So that was my first fundamental question. Like, who are we serving? And So that's my first question. And then I had others, but I don't know if you want to have a discussion about that.
I had similar issues with that in trying to go through this, and I didn't know if it was just because I've only been on this board for a few months and I'm still Barstow thought, but yes, that's exactly part of the problem I was having too, is to try to find our focus here and not get it confused. And maybe I didn't know if I misunderstood, so.
I don't
would
think it's
love
a
to hear more.
misunderstanding. I mean, I think you bring up a valid point. I think that because we are members of both OV district and BU district, that we know that fundamentally everything we do on all three of these boards is for our kids. However, I can see your point that RNESU doesn't really, well, actually we do things with kids because special ed is delivered directly to students. Busing is directly to students. But I can see your point where you might see that we would exist solely for the benefit of the district so that they can do their job more easily. So I'm going to open it up to everyone and ask them what they think, starting with Becky. Who's not saying anything?
She's thinking.
Okay, well then we'll go on. How about you, Barbara?
She's shaking her head.
No? Okay. How
These are
about
the kind
Brenda?
Sorry, I'll just say these are the kind of policy weeds that I'm often lost in, so
Sure.
I tend not to have deep thoughts about them.
Okay, fair enough. How about you, Brenda? Any thoughts or concerns about this?
So am I understanding the divide is that on the one hand, RNESU exists to support the other districts by monitoring taking care of transportation, central office, special education. That's it. Right?
Curriculum, food
And tech.
service,
Tech and food service.
technology.
Curriculum, which does get down to teaching and learning.
Yep.
And then it actually delegates the specifics of education to OVU and Barstow. So I can go either way. And, you know, on the one hand, it seems as if the bottom line is the education for all of our students. It's all about teaching and learning across the board. That's the bottom line.
Just through different means. I just think it just encompasses all. It is there. It does have its own subset, you know, with the special education and the transportation, as well as through the resources, I would guess, of this board and that board. So that helps me think about it a little bit better as I'm trying to go through it. So it's not one or the other. It's just, I think we need to word it to encaps all of it.
Okay.
I didn't think
comment,
about
Lori?
those other parts.
Yeah, go ahead, Jean.
So it's a really good discussion. I also think that, you know, if I were writing an ends report for this policy, I would be telling you how each of the departments within RNESU are serving the ends policies of the other two boards, really. At the same time, RNESU sets the path, and then develops the infrastructure that supports the two boards to achieve their ends. So I would be interested to hear kind of Debbie's ideas on how, on how you merge that. And it's not common to have an SU district like we have that's policy governance, so there aren't really examples that I could find out there.
Okay. So Debbie, do you want to kind of take over the discussion here and start with your questions and lead us through this?
Yeah, and I might just add, in addition to those special services or those departments that you mentioned that do serve directly the students, we also serve students indirectly. When I say we, RNESU, because there's two other primary roles that we play, and that is we negotiate and approve the teacher master agreement, right? So
yep.
in doing that, we are indirectly helping our districts achieve their global ends policies.
Right, but the
because-
boards also approve and negotiate. That's not solely RNESU.
Okay, we still have to sign off on the agreement, right?
And you have employees. And your
Okay.
employees include people in that agreement.
Okay, and then that's true. We do have RNESU specific employees, like RNESU specific paras,
Special educators.
special educators, and now floating
drivers.
subs. Yeah. So we are kind of an entity in and of our own. The other thing we do is we hire, supervise, and hopefully never fire our superintendent. And I see the superintendent as the primary deliverer of the operations and management functions, right, of our school districts. So I'm grappling with it, to be honest, because I was going to propose we change it altogether tonight, and say something like RNESU exists so that the BUU school district and the OVU school district have the means or ability to adequately support, to achieve their global ends, right?
Or have
Or
the
something like,
necessary.
yeah, or adequately supported and empowered to achieve their respective global ends. So that would be if we were just going to lift up and support our two districts in achieving their global ends. But now, after hearing this discussion, I see we have another function. We really do kind of exist as an entity. So I think we need to include that as well. Or maybe we just, if the RNESU, since we are comprised of the two district boards, and the two district boards have the same exact global ends policy, maybe we just keep that global ends policy as the RNESU global ends policy. I don't know.
Well, the global ends policies for both BUU and OVUU have been changed slightly since we had our big meeting there way back in November of 18 or whatever it was.
Right.
Maybe it was 19.
It was.
Anyway, it was 19. So things are just a little bit different in both of them. Mainly the stuff that's underneath that 1.0. And I think the reason we're kind of having this discussion is because maybe for RNESU, we need to have those bullet points underneath 1.0 like we do for BUU and OVUU. And maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know, maybe we wanted, I don't know what time it is. I don't want to, we have lots of other things to discuss tonight, but
5:45.
but maybe we wanted to bring those together at our next meeting where we can bring the global end policies from both and see if there's a way to mesh them together for RNESU, but also show that RNESU also has its own functions on how it does support our separate districts.
You might think about maybe just kind of a subcommittee of a couple people to bring some drafts to the next meeting.
Okay. Anyone want to volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
And
I volunteer Debbie.
Thanks, Barbara. I'd be happy to. That's fine.
Quebec City, I would join you, but I said this is for me.
Yeah, if you could rent us a room at in the Quebec City at the hotel, I'd be happy to do it.
we can rent you a room, you just can't go.
Oh, that's true.
That's right.
We can't. No, maybe Jessica and I could take a stab at it, but does somebody from the Otter Valley side? I mean,
Well,
I hate to say side, but
Right. I think we need to have somebody
Barbara?
from the OVU side.
I can, sure, I'm willing to. Like I say, you probably have to be like, okay, yes, sure, I will help you.
perfect.
Okay. All right. So you guys can get together and then just bring us back some ideas at our next meeting. How does that sound?
Yeah, why don't we aim to have a couple drafts or versions
Okay.
that we could consider?
Okay. That sounds great. So I'm sorry to table it again, but I think this is a big enough issue that we need to spend some time on it. Okay, so our next item is our monitoring report interpretation for executive limitation 2.8, which is communication and support to the board. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to review the interpretations that were sent to us by either Melinda or Jean directly. I can't remember which. And does anybody have any questions for Jean at this time, or do you want to go through each of her interpretations and discuss each one?
I had a general observation, and I think it's just because, Jean, you are so busy right now and everything's, there's so many more urgent things that are taking your attention. But I think the way I read the report, it seems like it's a report for OVU, not for RNESU. And it's, the title's RNESU, but then throughout the document, it talks about the OVU district. And
Thank you. I gave the report to OVU last week. They gave me input. I used that base report to write this one because of the input I got. So yes, you're right. I could have proofread it a whole lot better. I did have RNESU in mind, but I can go through and double check that. I see it in the first section. I'm not sure.
so like under
Oh yeah, the evidence, I didn't change any of the evidence. I only put that there as a sample of what it's going to look like because it's different from what it used to look like. I did not change any of that.
Okay.
That was only intended, I should have said that, but that was only intended to be, this is how the rest of the report's going to look when I finish it.
Okay.
And it was not in any way intended to reflect.
So we can ignore the observable conditions and
Right. It was
okay.
just an example of
Okay.
what
Okay.
it looked like. Right. Yeah.
Did
ignore
you have
those.
any issues, Debbie, with the interpretations themselves?
No, I think once it's cleaned up, it'll be fine. I mean, there's like, it refers to district instead of districts. So again, I think that's meaning OVU and not both districts. Jean, remind me, when do you do the observable conditions?
So-
Does that come with the evidence?
Yes.
That does. Okay.
So I'm not sure, Debbie, if your board, Barstow, has seen a report yet with observable conditions and evidence?
We have.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. So yeah, so that's done at the same time. So this one, I go through the interpretation and rationale,
Okay.
and then the next meeting, I bring you the observable conditions and evidence.
Perfect. Then I like the interpretations. I think they're excellent.
Great.
And they're
Anyone
updated.
else? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
I
interrupt.
was just gonna say they're updated from when Barstow last saw this.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions about the interpretations? Anything not make sense? Anybody think that they are not what we are looking for? Anyone agree with Debbie and think they're awesome?
So just next meeting, we'll have the evidence, right?
Right.
That's right.
Final
Yep.
report.
Okay, so hearing nothing from anyone else, I'm going to assume that you guys like the interpretations as they are, and that Jean will come back next month in our October meeting and give us the full monitoring report for 2.8.
You got head shakes and thumbs up.
Awesome. All right, moving on. Board management delegation monitoring report 4.2 board job description. Oh, is that a monitoring report that we actually have to do right now?
Right. So
Okay.
since you're on the phone, you could, I can read for you, or one of the board members can read for you. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections.
Okay, so if someone wants to read it for me, that would be
Oh.
great.
I'm wrong. There were more sections.
Oh, okay.
There's quite a few, actually.
Yeah, there are. But you could start it maybe.
But we
Okay.
should probably go through them one by one because we have to make a choice. It's a forced choice on circling one of the responses.
Okay.
I'll do the first one.
Okay, great.
So this will be a statement, and then we're going to circle either always, most of the time, some of the time, rarely, or never.
Okay.
And then we should come up with specific examples to support our response. So the statement is, specific job products of the board as an informed agent of the residents of Brandon, Chittenden, Goshen, Leicester, Mendon, Pittsburgh, Sudbury, Whiting are those that ensure appropriate organizational performance. The Rutland Northeast Supervisory Union Board shall participate with the BUU Board and OVUU Board to hire, negotiate, and contract with and set compensation for the superintendent.
Yep.
I think we always do that.
I agree.
I think evidence is that we have a superintendent and the compensation is set, the contract is done, and we have representatives from RNESU specifically serving on a committee to do that. Plus, we have the ongoing review of executive limitations, which is a way of participating in the supervision of the superintendent.
Great.
I'm taking notes. Is that all right?
Yeah, and if you want
Okay.
more specifics, we or actual specific information is that we look and evaluate your contract every February, and that's when we have you sign. So the contract was renewed in February with you.
Right. And an evaluation done at the same time.
Yeah, well, the evaluation is now being done through the executive limitations. So I think that yes.
But looking back a year, yeah.
But yes, looking back, we did an evaluation in February as well.
I might add a note in the last column that we haven't done this yet as a policy governance board. We haven't hired or negotiated a contract with Jean or with any superintendent. That was all done previous to policy governance.
You hired previous, but every February you're renewing a contract and you've
Right.
been a policy governance board.
And setting compensation as well.
Yep.
Okay, so maybe just a note saying that the hiring we haven't done yet under policy governance, but definitely we have negotiated. How long has RNESU been a PG board? Has it been a couple of years?
I think
2
it's
years.
coming up on 2.
Okay, yeah.
So are we ready to move on to the next statement?
Sure.
Okay. Brenda, are you going to keep doing that, or do you want someone else to take the next one?
She's saying no. Go around.
Okay. Becky, your turn.
It's hard for me to look at stuff on my phone. I'm on my phone, so I can't see stuff.
Okay, fine. We'll make Barbara do it.
Sorry.
Okay. All boards have direct responsibility to, 1, create and maintain the linkage between the residents and the operational organization to represent the informed voice of the residents. This linkage will include A, seeking input regarding residents' values on issues of ends and ethics, B, educating residents on issues impacting the organization, C, reporting to the residents on organizational performance, D, ensuring residents and other stakeholders that bring non-governing issues to the board understand the process for getting their issue addressed by the system in a courteous and respectful manner.
Okay. So I would say that RNESU Board doesn't really go out to the community that much. However, we do address people's issues as they come to the board in as quickly a manner as possible every time, I think. And we also, even though we're the RNESU Board, because we're made up of OVU members and BUU members, I wonder if we actually do go out there and let the community know what we're doing.
Well, that's
I'm
what's
not-
that's what's confusing about these policies, because sometimes it says board singular, meaning RNESU board, and then we get these statements like this that says all boards have direct responsibility too.
Okay.
So it's a little confusing. Like if I agree with you, Lori, if you say, does the RNESU board seek input regarding residents' values on issues of ends and ethics? I couldn't think of an example, since I've only been on the RNESU board for about 5 months now, but I couldn't think of an example when we did that as an RNESU board. But I know that each of the district boards do that, especially when we had our Global Ends retreat last November.
Right.
And so, I mean, I guess it's however we want it. We just need to be clear who we're referring to.
And RNESU Board did it for the mission vision work right before the Global Lens work.
That's true, we did.
We had a teacher forum, and we also had a community forum for the
Oh, good.
mission vision work.
What about the reporting to the residents on organizational performance?
That's the annual report. RNESU does do an annual
Okay.
report.
Yeah, I would put that as the example for C, reporting to the residents on organizational performance.
And annual meeting.
And annual meeting, exactly,
Yeah.
both of those. Is anybody taking notes? Jean, are you taking notes for this? Because I haven't done
I
it.
haven't. Thanks, Charlene.
And D, ensuring residents and other stakeholders that bring non-governing issues to the board, meaning I think the RNESU board,
Yep.
understand the process for getting their issue addressed. Again, since I've been on this board, I haven't had that situation, but
Yes,
maybe
you have. The pre-K lottery is a
Yeah,
perfect example of that.
yeah, pre-K.
They came, they had an issue, we addressed it as best we could.
But that was a governing issue, wasn't it?
No, that's not, I don't think so.
No, I agree with Lori. I think it was a community issue. Residents and other stakeholders who disagreed with the pre-K region and asked the board, worked with the board actually over the course of a few meetings to consider another option. And actually you worked with them to develop the lottery pilot.
So we would have been acting in our quasi-judicial role at that point when they'd gone through the whole system, right, Jean? They'd gone through the principals and you, so they're bringing it to us. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so that should be the example then given in that column, I think.
Mhm.
The pre-K issue, the pre-K boundary, or the lottery. That finishes one, Lori. We still have more to go. I don't know if you want for us to move on.
Yep, I think so. If we're done, then someone can just start with the next one, that's
Could
fine.
I ask how you would circle that one? Is it always, most of the time, some of the time, rarely, never?
I would say most of the time, just because RNESU doesn't actually go out and broadcast, hey, tell us what you're thinking specifically. I think we do that I think when we go out and do that, we do that with our district hats on, not our SU hats on. But that information helps RNESU decide what we need to do as well.
Do other people agree with that before I?
So are we back at A and B, or are we looking at D? Because
We're looking at number one.
so we don't have it broken down by,
On
Not
number
like A, B,
one,
and
you
C.
have one box that says always, most of the time, some of the time, rarely.
Right,
never.
we don't need evidence, we just need to, well, you've got your evidence on the one side, we just need to decide whether it's always, most of the time. My reasoning for most of the time is because we don't go out directly and say, hey, the RNESU board
Right,
is looking for your input.
right. And you gave evidence of B, C, and D, but not so much A. I mean, it was not in the last year anyway.
Right.
Does the board support the BU board and the OBU board in doing that in any way? And any of our
I don't think-
surveys and things like that? I mean, I'm
It's not like we endorse it. I mean, maybe we do. It's not like we say as RNESU, okay, OBUU and BUU, we should go out and do this. So it's not like we're saying, I don't think we endorse it.
okay.
I think we just do it because we know we have to.
Then I guess I agree with the most of the time. I was torn between some of the time and most of the time.
Okay. Anyone else have a feel it should be different? We can kind of circle in between if we need to. I just don't think it's always. I know it's not always, even though it should be. And we'll get there.
I don't know. I'm frozen, or you guys are frozen, so maybe someone else should read.
Yeah, moving around's good. All right, I'm putting down most of the time because it's quiet and heads are nodding.
Okay. So, Jessica, you want to take one?
Sure.
Okay.
Create and maintain written governing policies that realistically address the broadest levels of all organizational decisions and situations. A, ends, organizational outcomes, impacts, benefits, recipients, and the relative worth, what good for which recipients at what cost. B, executive limitations, constraints on executive authority that establish the ethical boundaries within which all executive activity and decisions must take place. C, board management delegation, how power is delegated and its proper use, the superintendent's role, authority, and accountability. And D, governance process, specification of how the board conceives, carries out, and monitors its own task.
I circled always for this
Yeah.
because we've done it. I mean, it's kind of a one-off thing. You create the policies, and we've done that as a board, and we are maintaining them, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Great.
Okay.
Do you want to go on to number 3?
Sure.
Familiar with all required policies in effect. It's a short one.
I would say always.
Are you guys
That's
familiar with your policies?
Nope. I honestly did not even know what the RNESU policies were until I had to get ready for this meeting. So I will confess, I had to go and read them and just see if there were any differences with our district policies. I marked myself rarely, but I was thinking myself. But I promise I'll get better and familiarize myself. I don't know if any of you feel like you always feel like you're familiar with our policies. I'm still new to this board, so I would rate myself as rarely.
I feel comfortable with some of the time. I
Okay.
think that certainly
Okay.
whenever the opportunity avails, we focus in on policies and really dig into them. But then there are times when we get focused on other business like pre-K district lines and things. So I think some of the time.
Okay, that sounds good. Everybody else agree?
Looks like it.
Okay.
Do
Awesome.
we go to number 4? It's
Yep,
another
I think-
short.
Okay.
Gain assurance of successful organizational performance on ends and executive limitations.
That, I guess what that means is that you are getting monitoring reports. And you have been, other than the spring.
Right.
So always, most of the time?
I would
I'd say
argue
most of the time.
yeah.
Most
You've
of the
done
time?
2.1, 2.4, 2.8 was tonight, and the COVID update, if that's helpful to you. Those are the ones that
I
you
think we should just mark in our evidence that due to COVID, we were not able to monitor our policies like we normally would. I think that just needs to be there, just to be honest.
And I would also add that we haven't monitored our ends policy at all.
No, but we were going through our first year of policies with RNESU, so we wouldn't have done that anyway until this fall.
Okay.
right?
So that's what's nice about that comment section, because we could say that in the comment, that we haven't had that opportunity yet to monitor the ends policy.
Right.
So what are you circling?
Most of the time.
Most of the time, sounds good.
Okay, number 5, advocate for legislative change which positively impacts public education.
So I might suggest this evidence of this, and you can decide how you want to rate it, but you participate in the VSBA resolutions. You participate in the VHI and VSBIT voting process. You get periodic legislative updates from me as well as from VSBA. And when asked, you have spoken up to advocate for something in particular, generally having to do with budget.
Most of the time?
Jean, would this also be like, the things that come to my mind are when we, like the vaping thing and the Juul thing?
Right, you signed on to a lawsuit, right?
Yeah. And we've done that a couple times, but I know recently in the near past, it was the.
This is covering the past year, and you did in the past year.
Yeah. So I say most of the time or always. Because whenever things do like that come up, we always do those things.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, number 7, determine the expenditure of surplus funds.
So this one's interesting because RNESU is not allowed to have surplus funds. If your budget is a surplus, it goes back to Otter Valley and Barstow. You don't get to determine the use of surplus funds. They get money back.
So
I
we
guess-
actually do then. We get to say that we siphon it back to our respective districts.
That's true. You don't get
So
to
I think
determine
that's-
to do that, but you do that.
Sure. Well, I think that even if it's the legality of it, then that is what we do.
So you always do that.
Yep.
And you also don't have, on the next one, long-term reserves. You
Right.
aren't allowed to.
Okay. So are we ready for the last one? Somebody else want to read it?
You're doing such a good job, Brenda. Finish us off.
All right. In addition, the board has taken on the following non-governing outputs. 1, negotiating union contracts. 2, conduct fair hearings in its role as a quasi-judicial body.
I think that's an
We do that
always.
stuff.
I think we've talked about how we do that already tonight.
Yep.
Are there any others, or was that the last one?
That was it.
Cool. Anything anybody wants to say specifically regarding the
I
board?
would like to congratulate the board on completing your first governance process monitoring. Yay!
Yay.
Woo!
We do have
Awesome.
some questions, which I don't know if the OU board uses, but Barstow does, and I think they're helpful. At the bottom, Lori, I know you can't see it, but they ask like, what specific actions could we take to continually improve our application of this policy?
I'm curious if number 6 and 7 needs to remain in your policy.
I think 6 needs to be there, even though, it's actually a legal thing, so it's not required to be there. And 7 shouldn't be there because we don't have any kind of reserve funds. And we're not allowed to have them anyway.
You'd have to revise the policy to take them out, but I could bring that to you next meeting if you'd like.
Everybody feel good about that?
Sounds good.
I like it. I think we could modify the wording in 6 to do exactly what we are supposed to do.
If it's a legal thing, I don't even think we need it then.
Okay, then maybe we get rid of it.
Okay, because usually, I think in all of our other policies, that became admin memos if it was something that you have to do legally, or, then it doesn't need to be a policy because you're required to do it anyway. So we'll put that on October's agenda then.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. So we've talked about this a little bit. The OVUU board development on equity and need to put my glasses back on. Sorry. Equity and on policy governance.
Yeah, I don't know why I put on policy governance. I'm sorry. Should have been
Okay.
equity and racism.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's why I need to put my glasses on. Sorry. So that is next week on the 23rd. I believe it starts at 6. We will send out Zoom links. Please share it. Please come. I think it's going to be very, very helpful for all of us.
I actually will not send out a Zoom link until I will send it to the board on the day of, and it will be linked on the website. So the communications will be go to the website. Otherwise, the potential of Zoom bombing once I send it out is too high. So the board you'll get your invitations, but we'll be directing people to the website, and I'll make it live that day.
Okay, great. Governance process. We need to appoint a rep for October VISBIT VHI annual meeting, which is a virtual meeting this year. Anybody interested in going? I know that I'm already going, but if anybody else is interested in being a rep for that meeting, please shout out to me and tell me you want to do it. Essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to get to cast the vote on our insurance plan and our other, I can't remember what else there is, but it's really the insurance and it's something else. Jean, do you remember?
It's primarily insurance and other liability insurances.
Okay, so that's what I thought.
Health insurance and other liability insurances.
Okay.
It's super easy. It's a Zoom meeting, and
Yep.
any takers?
Is it okay if we just have one, if Lori's the only
Yeah.
one there? So
Yeah.
Lori, I'm happy just to have you do that.
So you should move to designate Lori to represent RNESU.
I'll make the motion that we designate Lori Bertrand to be our representative at the VISBIT VHI annual meeting.
Cool. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second that. That's Barbara.
Okay, all those in favor, press that little green button. All those not in favor, press the red button. Too bad I can't vote. I pressed the red button. No, I'm just kidding. And then Jean, if you wouldn't mind letting
It
us know
passed.
what the results are. Okay, perfect. So now we need a rep for the October VSBA annual meeting, which again is also online. That one will vote on any of the resolutions, the proposed resolutions, which OBUU has a proposed resolution, I believe,
Yes.
on there that Bill Mathis wrote. So the VSBA and the VSBA meeting are the same day, right?
I don't remember, but usually.
Usually
they're
they are.
at the conference, so usually they are.
Okay. So in that case, if no one else wants to be the representative, again, I'll be there. I'm happy to be that rep. But if someone else wants to do it, I'm happy to step back and let you have all the glory.
So could I just ask a question about this thing,
Sure.
this annual meeting?
Yes.
Yep.
So is the Barstow Board and the OVU Board also going to send representatives?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, it's
Yep.
on the Barstow Board agenda for next Monday. And you can attend even without being the representative who votes. It's wide open to you.
Okay.
Are they giving presentations and stuff like that this year, or is it just a business meeting?
I think it's just the business meeting. They did the conference with the presentations. They did that in July.
In the summer? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So unless someone else wants to be the rep, if someone wants to make the motion to appoint me as the representative, we could do that.
I move
So moved.
that Lori
Oh,
be the
sorry, Barb.
representative.
Brenda and Becky.
Brenda.
Okay. All those approve. Green button. All those oppose. Red button.
Debbie. Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Passed.
Next one is the VSBA communication regarding reopening plans and the equity policy. So, is that one page paper that Brenda Hummel put together so great for the BUU board, and then I stole it and changed it all to OBUU and passed it off as my own?
Yep.
Awesome.
Good.
So, I believe in this case, it's the same as BUU and OBUU. Reopening plans under policy governance, we don't need to have a policy about reopening plans because reopening is an operations, and that is something that the superintendent takes care of. So we don't need a policy on that. And the equity policy, Jean, you are drafting currently, correct?
Yes and no. Yes, I intend to, but the equity committee and the equity audit haven't yet occurred, which will happen before the policy.
Okay.
Yes,
Right.
it will be coming to you, but it's not currently being drafted till we pull the people together.
Great. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. Review our annual work plan. Do we have anything on October's work plan that we need to know about?
I'm bringing you the final EL monitoring report. You
Yep.
are setting budget parameters, which is going to be very interesting this year. And discussing the superintendent evaluation. Yeah.
And also we're what are we doing?
The
Revoking
global lens. We're looking at the global lens policy.
those two pieces of we're going to review the global ends. I forgot about that. With whatever the subcommittee brings, and then also we just talked about revising 4.2 and getting rid of 6 and 7, right?
Right. Yep. So that'll be on our annual work plan for that'll be on our work plan for October. And then so I don't think we'll have any more room for anything else, honestly. So we should move on to our next piece, which is the board annual evaluation, which is 4.1. We postponed this from our September meeting or October meeting, August meeting. There we go. So we want to discuss our individual and whole board self-evaluations.
I'm looking, have you done it?
I don't think we did it for RNESU actually. We did it as OVUU, and I'm assuming BUU did it for themselves.
Right, they did. So I see blank assessment guides. I don't know.
Okay.
You could do the whole one together, but individual is individual, and you want to do that before you do the whole. So
I think we're postponing this again to September. So when I said
I
September to
will
begin
ask
with.
Melinda to send it to you.
Okay. All right, so our next board meeting is set for Wednesday, October 21st at 5 o'clock. We are going to try and, I think we need to stick with the 5 o'clock only because we are starting in front of an OVUU
Right.
meeting. So this will give us a full hour. It'll probably be a Zoom meeting at this point, but who knows? We'll keep you posted. We do need to do a board meeting self-evaluation tonight. The other thing that I'm doing at OVUU and I would like to do in our RNESU meeting is that for any of our schools that are doing any kind of fundraising, I would really like to put it out there in our board meetings that they are happening so that people who watch it either on PEG TV or come to our meetings will hear about it so that they can support it. So I don't know if Barstow has any kind of fundraising going on right now. Do you guys know?
I don't believe there is at the moment.
Okay. But Otter Valley currently right now, the Walking Stick Theater is still planning on going to the Fringe Festival in Scotland next August 2021, as long as we travel restrictions are lifted and the Fringe Festival happens. So they are currently right now selling concessions at the Brandon Jack McKernan Drive-In movie theater every Friday and Saturday night. Whenever there's a movie, you'll find us there with all sorts of popcorn and hot dogs, hamburgers. This weekend it's going to be warm apple crisp and chicken and biscuits. And then they're also doing a 50-50 raffle, and they're also doing a bottle drive. So I would just like to have this be a platform where at the end of the meeting we discuss all that stuff so that we'll get the word. Hopefully the word will get out to more people to help our students with whatever fundraising events they have going on. So does someone have a board meeting self-evaluation in front of them, possibly, Jean?
I do.
Awesome. Do you want to lead us through it, please?
Sure. Did you provide strategic leadership by focusing on the ends?
Oh, we did that tonight.
Everyone thumbs up or? Okay, great. Did you obtain or consider ownership input?
I can't think of
a
an
difficult one
example.
if somebody doesn't come and yet you discussed whether or not,
I think we did. Well, if we want to stretch it, we did discuss it when we were talking about our job description, as far as going out to the community and talking to them. But as far as someone coming to the meeting and us talking to them tonight, it didn't happen.
Right.
So I'll leave it up to you guys.
Jean, can you read that one again?
We obtain or consider ownership input.
I'd say maybe just by the fact that we have an opening on the agenda for public comment shows that we consider it. I mean, that's
True.
reaching, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So always, because it's there.
Yep.
We encourage diversity of viewpoints.
Yes, I would agree on that.
I see a thumbs up. Otter Valley does a fist of 5, and Barstow doesn't. So you're getting thumbs from Barstow and 5s. So I'm taking that as a yes. We were proactive and future focused.
Well, I would say we were, since we're talking about our global ends and changing them, because we want to make sure that it actually focuses on what we're focused on. So I would say yes.
And we limited our decisions to items that related to the board's governance job.
Yes.
We did that. Yep.
And decisions were made collectively.
Yes.
Nice job,
Yeah.
guys.
I would say that.
So Lori, just a question of clarification. We're going to do the board self-evaluation, the mid-year or the final, I don't know which one it is, we're going to write them out and then we're going to send them back to
Melinda?
Melinda, and she'll compile them for our next meeting so we can talk about them, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so that's another homework assignment for next time.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. I don't believe we need executive session tonight.
Nope.
And so I will say that this meeting is being adjourned at 6:29 and that you agree by leaving the meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Have a good night.
And